Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we explore convenient yet effective shortcuts that will help you get ahead and move forward faster by becoming a better leader. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert, and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Okay, Fast Leader Legion, I am excited today because you're going to get two gifts. One being that you get to meet the guest that I have today, and the other being is that you get a download to a brand new book. Jeanne Marie Teresa Lombardo Bliss grew up in Des Plaines, Illinois. As the third of 7 children, she learned early on that she'd better grab some food to eat as the platter was set down on the table, or there wouldn't be much food left after her 4 brothers dove into the meal. Her dad, Vince Lombardo, owned a Buster Brown shoe store not far from the very first McDonald's in downtown Des Plaines. At the shoe store, each of the Lombardo children would take their turn dressing up every summer in the Chicago heat and humidity as Buster Brown, blonde, page boy wig and all. It was a very much needed and early lesson in humility. The far greater lesson was watching her dad shoe multiple generations of children. He oftentimes put the very first pair of shoes on kids' feet. He knew the families, the kids, and the kids' kids. Because he was a small-town merchant, he couldn't even leave the store for lunch, and so he'd make sausage and peppers in the back room for lunch on a hot plate. Not only did he shoe all of those families, he fed many of them too. He became a part of the story of people's lives, so much so that when he retired, a line of people 3 blocks long stood to say goodbye. And that is the story that Jeanne has carried in her heart throughout all of her work and her journey of her life. Her grandmas were kind of that way too. She has a hard time remembering either of them sitting down at the table while the family was eating a meal. They were always hovering behind chairs, plopping more food on already full plates, saying, "Manja, manja." The food festival didn't stop there either. Nobody was able to leave either of their houses without a bag of groceries. They'd go into the cupboard and scoop up whatever they had and package it and throw it into a Dominic's bag. So what Jeanne's really carried with her throughout her life from all of this is 2 things. Leave people with a memory and nourish them. Whether it's their heart or their souls, always leave them with your version of a bag of groceries. Jeanne Marie Teresa Lombardo Bliss, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
I am ready.
All right. This is exciting. All right. So I've given our Fast Leader Legion a good intro about you because you are so passionate. And I think that story and that bio is just really revealing of that. But what is your current passion so that we can get to know you better?
Well, thanks. That's a great question. And thanks for telling that story about my dad, my grandma's. Being Italian, it's, you can't leave it far behind from who you are. What I'm really trying to figure out at this point in my life is I'm 56. So how do you create a wonderful next version of life, right? I've been working and doing a body slam at work for 56 years, and I love it. But I also love my husband, and I want to see more of him, and I want to have a balance in my life somehow. And so that's really what I'm trying to do is balance the living part of life with the working part of life and figure out as I move to that next stage of my life, how can I keep on living, but save the best for last, really, and have that really joyous kind of last part of my career, which is, for me, I've done this great customer experience stuff. I want to figure out what's the give back part of my life.
Well, that's interesting, Jeanne, because, you talk about the give back piece, and I've myself been part of the Customer Experience Professionals Association, and you've kind of given back a lot through that association. What else is on your, what else is on your horizon?
Well, I did love that. And it's been fantastic. Bruce Temkin and it was a labor of love for this association. And for me, I want to figure out what's another thing that I can do for the world, homeless girls. This kickback that we have is about creating memories and helping people in their lives. In fact, that's really my big mantra is earn the right to grow by improving people's lives. So I want to say, this was the money-making version of Give Back. What's now the more charitable version of Give Back as I kind of ride into the sunset, and it's not tomorrow, but, 7 or 8 or 10 years from now, what am I going to do to take this kit bag and give back to the greater good?
And I appreciate all that you've done and all that you're really set up to do. And you're a great role model, not just for women, but for everyone. And I appreciate that.
Oh, well, that's nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. There is no doubt that somebody with your energy has to find passion in certain places to continue to fuel the fire. It's kind of like that. I remember, hearing about Michael Phelps when he was in his, Olympic prime, having to eat like 12,000 or 20,000 calories a day just to keep up with that. So, I mean, we like to focus on quotes at the Fast Leader Show because they do just that. Sometimes they just pick us up mentally so that physically we can keep going. Is there a quote or two that kind of stands out for you as something that just does just that?
One of the things that I realize is that you have a choice. You can choose happiness. You can choose to deliver a memory, and you can choose what kind of memory you're going to deliver. And that is something that I keep in my mind all the time. Choose it and deliver it.
I love that action-based aspect of that because oftentimes it's, we don't have that action piece and we just, we get the energy, but don't know where to release it. And that's a key point, get it, release it, and just continue to fuel that fire, so to speak. Now, I know though that with having a high energy type of personality is that oftentimes we have humps to get over that kind of bring us down, but those are learning moments. So is there a time where you had a hump to get over that shaped you? Can you take us back to that moment?
Gosh, I've had a lot of humps. In fact, one of the things I talk about, professionally at least, is that this work is like pushing the rock up the hill, and it's fallen on my head a lot of times. And, I'm only 5 feet tall, that. And it's really about figuring out for me how to check your ego at the door. The work that we do, as you know, has to be less about putting yourself in the spotlight and more about earning the right to continue to do this great work by putting others in the spotlight. And that was something I had to learn when I was in my 20s and my 30s, still doing this work with these great roles. I couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting as much traction. And it was because I was putting myself in the center versus putting others in the center and making the work about enabling people. And I found that when I finally flipped that, everything really changed. But that was a hard learned lesson.
Can you remember when that, kind of that defining moment where that happened?
It was probably when I was I was about 28. I was at Land's End. It was a long, long time ago. And we had brought a lot of people together, and somebody pulled me aside after a meeting and said, we did the work and you're talking about it as if you did the work. And I said, I facilitated the work. They said, no, you got us together, but we did the work if it wasn't for us. And bam, it was like this really amazing moment that I realized that's what the glory is. You've got to be Tom Sawyer. You need to get people to want to paint the fence, but then you have to give them the recognition for painting the fence. And once I kind of figured that out, it changed a lot of things for me, changed a lot of things in my trajectory in my career, as well as personally, really trying to figure out how to, you listen to people and they talk about themselves. Somebody will tell you about a time in their life and they're unhappy or sad, or friends are going through divorces or whatever. And instead of empathizing with the person, they will then tell a story about themselves. Well, if you're in the middle of this terrible situation, you want to be listened to and be empathized for your life. You don't want to hear about the narrative of somebody else's life at that point. So that, I think, is the lesson.
So there's times where people have the opportunity to step up and speak and say those types of things that person said to you, but they don't do that. And I think they're doing it less and less as, time has gone by. You talk about that being many years ago. I don't think as many people step up anymore. But that person, in the way that they approached you, how did they do it so that it did give you the opportunity to reflect and say, I have an epiphany here?
Land's End was a really safe place. I kind of grew up there. I got there when I was 24 and I left when I was 34. And we had senior leader who were mentors, and you never felt like when they were talking to you that your job was at risk. And that was important. It was more about, look, I want to make you better. I want to help you. But you're right. You don't see that anymore. There is not that. That's why, this cool thing we have at the CXPA with the mentorship and all of that is important, because people all need a safe place. one of the things that my husband and I talk about is that we're each other's island. I'm your island and you're my island. This is the safe place where you can be who you are and not worry about any other of the noise in the world. And I think that in business, we all need to figure out one island at least where we can have a safe place and somebody can be really honest with us and tell us like it is. Because I'm a bull in a china shop. I'm Italian. I've got a big mouth. I've got a big personality. I never mean it. But my bark is bigger than my bite. And I have always appreciated, and there's many other times, certainly I didn't change my ways from that one time. I mean, I had to keep on renegotiating my life, but I've always found people who will settle me down and give me the straight talk. But I think you've got to tell people you want it.
So if you were to say, from all that you've learned, and we're going to talk about some other things in a moment as far as where you're going, what is a good piece of advice that you would give to our listeners?
Well, I think don't forget that your feet are made of clay. The more we get so full of in our own head or whatever, the more you advance in your life, I think the more humble you should become, the more open you should be to learning. And the more, for me, the more I'm recognizing my foibles and the things that I need to work on. And I think it's just being open to that, recognizing and being open to people kind of telling you what's up, telling you how what you've said impacts them, and being willing to change. And don't take it personally, take it constructively. Put that defense mechanism on the shelf as much as you can.
So you had talked about going through and focusing in on something new to be able to give back. But when you start talking about where you're focusing your energies and your current passions, what are they now?
I want to help companies grow by improving customers' lives. I want to help leaders recognize that the whole reason they have a business is to improve customers' lives. It's not to get a survey score. It's not to get more sales. It's, yes, you want to grow, but I want to teach people how to grow. The way to grow that's grounded in improving customers' and employees' lives. And this notion of earning the right to growth, that is really where I find when I work with leaders and CCOs or whoever, is that's the switch that needs to be flipped. Why are you in business and how are you going to improve the life? This week was a milestone in my campaign and crusade for helping companies turn their work around, because I'm honored to release my third book this week called Chief Customer Officer 2.0, How to Build Your Customer-Driven Growth Engine.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I think you're going to actually give a gift to our listeners. Is that correct?
I am. My bag of groceries to everybody is the first chapter of the book. And as well, when they go onto my website, my new website's going to come up in a couple weeks. It's going to have actually customer-centric recipe cards that they can download, leadership messages that they can use regularly to start driving the action.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, what we're going to do is we're going to make a link to that first chapter for you on our show notes page, and you'll be able to find that at fastleader.net/Jeanne Bliss. And Jeanne, we all wish you the very best. Okay, now it's time for us to move on to the rapid part of our show, and that's the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Jeanne, the Hump Day Hoedown is the part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Jeanne Marie Teresa Lombardo Bliss, are you ready to hoe down?
I am!
All right. Okay, so what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
Brain moving too fast.
Definitely need to catch up sometimes, I know. All right, so what is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Write like you talk.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
Passion and persistence and not stopping ever.
What do you feel is one of your best resources that helps you lead in business or life?
Going back to my roots and who I am and how I grew up.
Now, I know this one's going to be a little bit tough for you because I know people who are writers are also well-read leaders, but is there a book or two that you would recommend to our listeners?
The Velveteen Rabbit, one of my favorite books on the planet. It's just it sounds silly, but it's about being real and being human.
All right. We're also going to make a link to that on our show notes page at fastleader.net/Jeanne Bliss. Okay, Jeanne, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you woke up tomorrow morning and you were 25 years old again, and you are supposed to begin a new job as a manager of a team of people that is underperforming and disengaged, but you've retained all the wisdom and skill that you currently have. Your task is to turn the team around. So you get up, you get ready, and you head out to work. What do you do now?
I, first of all, will want to meet each of them individually and talk about their life, understand who they are, what's important to them, why they took the job. And then I'd really sit down with them and ask what's getting in the way of their ability to deliver and support the customer, and start to work that way. And then solve some of the things for them, but make sure that I'm continuously going back to them in their life and so serving and supporting them, and coach and mentor them, and give them a safe place where they can really feel that they can grow and be nurtured.
Jeanne, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader listeners how they can connect with you?
I'm so lucky I married a guy named Bliss. So you can find me at www.customerbliss.com.
Jeanne Marie Teresa Lombardo Bliss, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Woo-hoo! Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.